He broke me down through means of starvation, sleep deprivation, and threats against my life, sometimes with deadly weapons, which would result in me having severe panic attacks where I was unable to breathe or stop shaking.
He controlled when and if I slept, and I was often violently shaken awake should I go to sleep without permission.
He also threatened to leak parts of the footage or photographs he had taken as a way to keep me quiet.
He took photos of my naked, mutilated body and posted them online without my knowledge.
Maybe it's all men are bad, or all men can't do anything inappropriate. It makes you feel like you can't even say, I meet her and say, if I could look at her the wrong way, I'm gonna be accused of something wrong.
Hi guys, how are you today? My name is Shanda and welcome to my channel. I first want to take a moment and say thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will give it a chance, and if you are returning to my channel, thank you so much for returning to my channel. I really appreciate it and it really does mean a lot to me. Okay guys, so today I have a huge video for you guys. Now I've been doing research for about a little over a month now on the Marilyn Manson and Evan Rachel Wood controversy. Now I was actually going to film this video yesterday morning, and something came up and I wasn't able to. Now my first video was just going to be, here are all the facts, what do you guys think? She hasn't named anybody, but yesterday a whole bunch of news broke about this, and Evan Rachel Wood actually named her abuser and he responded. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to include all of the information and the research and everything, and then after that I'm going to include all of the updates so we can still do the whole story so you guys can know everything. So without further ado guys, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so first I want to start off with some background on their relationship. By the way, if you guys are wondering what this thing is, it's a heart monitor. At first I was like, hey, it kind of looks like a microphone, so I don't even have to say anything maybe, but no, it's actually a heart monitor. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you guys on my channel, but I have heart disease, and I have a pacemaker, and every 7 years or so my heart starts going into some crappy arrhythmias, and I have to get a heart surgery to fix those. And it's been about 8 years since my last surgery, and so they have to find out what kind of arrhythmias there are, so I have to wear this heart monitor for a couple weeks. But anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know in case you're like, what the hell is that thing? But okay, first thing I want to talk about, you guys, is some background on their relationship. So Evan Rachel Wood and Marilyn Manson started dating in 2007. Now, Evan Rachel Wood was 19 at the time, so she was freshly an adult. I mean, she was 19 years old, still a teen pretty much, and they dated from 2007 to 2010, and they got engaged in 2010. But then in August of 2010, they actually split up and broke up and was over. Now, after they broke up, we didn't really hear anything after that at all. They broke up and that was the end of the story. No, we never heard anything, any kind of controversy after they broke up or anything like that. So February 2018, Evan Rachel Wood testified in front of Congress on behalf of the Phoenix Act. She actually testified February 2018 and then again April 23rd, 2019.
When I was a teenager, I met a man. I looked up to him in many ways and felt like we had a special bond, and I had no intention of it turning into something romantic. When it eventually did, I wasn't sure how to stop it, as he had a certain charisma and power, and I quickly surrendered to his charms. In the beginning, he treated me like a princess. I was smart, but a smart 18-year-old is still an 18-year-old, and I thought I had fell in love. It wasn't until much later that I realized everything he had told me was a lie and part of what is called the grooming process. He'd hidden a terrible drug and alcohol problem from me. He moved very fast in the relationship, asking me to move in with him almost immediately. There was a certain way he wanted me to look, otherwise I would endure name-calling and ridicule. He cut me off from my close friends and family one by exhibiting rage in some form or another when I was in contact with them. The only way I knew how to calm him was to give him what he wanted, which was me all to himself in total isolation. He had bouts of extreme jealousy, which would often result in him wrecking our home, cornering me in a room, and threatening me. I witnessed my abuser threatening people with force or legal action if he worried they would expose him. He bragged about being able to have people killed because he was allegedly friends with multiple gangs, and I watched him illegally collect data on people that he could use as blackmail. By the time I realized I was in a bad situation, I felt completely trapped and terrified for my life. He gifted me a cell phone, which I found out he was monitoring. He downloaded spyware onto my computer and hacked into my emails and social media accounts so I could not reach out for help. When my friends and family tried to intervene, I swiftly told them to leave because I was afraid of what he would do. He broke me down through means of starvation, sleep deprivation, and threats against my life, sometimes with deadly weapons, which would result in me having severe panic attacks where I was unable to breathe or stop shaking. Sometimes he would not allow me to sleep until I participated in acts of fear, pain, torture, and humiliation, which I felt powerless to stop. In some of these tapes, which he also videotaped, in some of these tapes, he can be heard threatening to kill me, threatening my friends, or threatening to kill members of my family. He also threatened to leak parts of the footage or photographs he had taken as a way to keep me quiet. I mustered the courage to leave several times, but he would call my house incessantly and threaten to kill himself. On one occasion, I returned to try and defuse the situation. He cornered me in our bedroom and asked me to kneel while he tied me up by my hands and feet. Once I was restrained, he beat me and shocked sensitive parts of my body with a torture device called a violet wand. To him, it was a way for me to prove my loyalty. The worst part was I still felt it was somehow my fault because society had told me I should just leave when someone hits me, but this was so much more complicated and so much scarier than anything had ever prepared me for. I didn't know what to call it. After this incident, I played along with whatever he wanted, enduring constant daily abuse and on occasion rape, until I found a way to escape safely. Years later, my therapist would identify this as Stockholm Syndrome. Once I was finally out of my abuser's control, I did whatever I could to feel safe, which meant putting time and space between me, him, and the abuse. The shame is still overwhelming, and it's taken all of my strength to speak publicly and to pursue this. Even today, the fear of being judged by society is debilitating, and the fear of retaliation from my abuser is paralyzing. By speaking to you today and every day, I put myself at risk, as I have no protection. I've had to go through intense therapy to even fully understand what has happened to me, and I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD. I'm still in the process of working through this. The final push into creating the Phoenix Act was the crushing realization years later that he had done this to several people, and it was very likely there were more victims. So I tried to take my evidence to the state in an attempt to stop this from happening to anyone else. My evidence included photographs and video, not just relying on memory. It cannot be viewed by the state because the statute of limitations on my case has run out. And I've lived with the silence and shame for too long, and it has been unbearable. It's taken years from my life because I was too afraid to tell anyone. I know that this bill will not affect my case, but I urge you to vote yes on the Phoenix Act to create a cushion for victims to leave their dangerous situations, get the help they need, and come back from their trauma in order to pursue justice and stop serial abusers as long as they have undeniable evidence. We do not wish to create new laws or harsher punishments, only more time if the evidence meets the criteria we are putting forward. Thank you for your time and for hearing us today.
Okay, so the Phoenix Act is actually a bill written by Evan Rachel Wood herself. Now, this bill is proposing that they extend the statute of limitations for domestic violence victims from 3 years to 10 years in the state of California. Now, I do want to note that this bill actually did pass in California, and now it's being taken to all other 49 states. But when the bill did pass, they only extended the statute of limitations for domestic violence victims to 5 years. So they extended it from 3 years to 5 years and not actually to 10 years like the bill was proposing. Okay, so at this time, in my notes, I said Evan has not yet named her abuser, and she said she does not plan on naming her abuser at all, because this is not about revenge. This is about giving power back to survivors of domestic violence. So Evan, at first, she was not planning on naming her abuser at all. But that also did not stop the public and social media from speculating and trying to figure out exactly who she was talking about and who her abuser was. Now, one speculation was actually Mickey Rourke. Now, a lot of people on social media thought that her abuser could be Mickey Rourke. Now, when Evan heard these speculations, she did take to her Instagram and she said, quote, "A lot of rumors have been circulating around about who I was talking about in my testimony. I would like to clear something up and say it was not Mickey Rourke. We were never even together." So when people heard that, they automatically assumed, okay, well, she's saying it's not Mickey Rourke, so it must be Marilyn Manson. Because at that time in her life, around that age, she was only with Marilyn Manson and her ex-boyfriend, Jamie Bell. But it really seemed like she was more or less clarifying that her and Mickey Rourke were never even together, so it couldn't have been him at all anyway, because they were never even actually together. Now, if I came out with a domestic violence story like that and everybody was speculating who I was talking about and blaming it on my ex, now, if it wasn't my ex, I would say no, it wasn't him, and just kind of clear his name. But she never did that, so, and she had to have known that everybody was, speculating that it was him, and he was kind of in some hot water over it. So, if that was me and it wasn't my ex, that particular ex-boyfriend, I would say that it wasn't him, and the fact that she didn't do that really had me kind of like, maybe it is Marilyn Manson. Okay, so with all of this controversy and speculation going on, Marilyn Manson released a new album called Chaos in 2020, September, just this past September. And he actually had an interview with Metal Hammer magazine. Now, Metal Hammer magazine said that as soon as they mentioned Evan Rachel Wood's name, Manson immediately hung up. Now, I was kind of like, that does not sound very good. Why would he do that? But, and it definitely sounded like he might be guilty. So I kind of looked into it, and when I looked into it, that wasn't the full story, actually. What actually happened was the interviewer brought up Evan Rachel Wood, and Manson said that he did not want to talk about that. He didn't want to talk about her. He wanted to talk about his music. And the interviewer just kept pushing and pushing and kept talking about her and kept talking about her. And Manson kept saying, "I don't want to talk about rumors." And the interviewer said, "So you do not want to talk about the allegations against you?" And Manson replied, "There are no allegations against me. These are just rumors. I don't want to talk about rumors as much as I want to talk about my music." Well, the interviewer continued to ask about Evan Rachel Wood, so Manson hung up. So that was actually that full story. So it wasn't like they mentioned her and he immediately hung up. He did talk to him for a few minutes and kept saying he didn't want to talk about her. And then he eventually hung up. Now, I know that doesn't really mean anything, but I wanted to just clear that up for some people and clarify that. Now, after Manson actually hung up on the interviewer, his team was incredibly upset with that interviewer, and Marilyn Manson's team actually tried to get Metal Hammer magazine to pull that article for almost a month. And Manson's team told Metal Hammer magazine that if they did not pull the article, then it would damage future chances for any kind of future interviews with Manson. Now, I don't know if that was supposed to intimidate Metal Hammer magazine or what, but they did not pull the article. They actually went ahead and published it anyway, and after they published the article, Manson's team decided to talk with them. Now, actually, before they published the article, Metal Hammer magazine kept trying to get Manson's team to talk to them about the issue, and Evan Rachel Wood, and they would not speak about it. But after Metal Hammer magazine published their article, Manson's team decided to go ahead and talk to them and answer any questions that they might have. I mean, of course. Now, Manson's team did try to say that they did not respond. They tried to say, quote, "We have never refused to respond. You have chosen not to tell us what you're writing, and it's impossible to respond to something we do not know the content of." So, the magazine sent Manson and his team some questions in writing, and Manson's team answered them, and we will be going through each one of those questions and the answers from Manson's team. Okay, so the first question that Metal Hammer magazine sent Marilyn Manson and his team was this. In the interview before the call was terminated, we asked how Marilyn Manson felt on hearing Evan Rachel Wood's testimony. How did he feel? So they wanted to know how Marilyn Manson felt about Evan Rachel Wood's testimony. So Marilyn Manson's team responded. Now, the person who was talking is Marilyn Manson's UK PR rep, Duff Batty. Batty? I don't know. And he replied, he or she, I don't know, is Duff a boy or a girl? I'm not sure, I've never heard that name before, but they replied, "We have advised our client not to comment further on your article," and went on to make the statement, quote, "Personal testimony is just that, and we think it's inappropriate to comment on that," end quote. Okay, so they said they didn't ever refuse to respond. That definitely sounds like they're refusing to respond to that question, at least. So he can't even tell how he felt when he heard her testimony? Okie dokie. Moving on. Question number 2. How does it feel to be, quote, tried by social media? He has been accused by people online of doing some terrible things. Would he like to take this opportunity to answer those critics and clear his name? Now, the answer that Marilyn Manson and his team gave to that one is, quote, "You then go on to talk about Marilyn Manson being accused of, quote, terrible things by unnamed, quote, critics, but offer no guidance on who these critics are and what these things are. So it's not even possible to comment," end quote. Now, I do have to admit, I do kind of agree. That was kind of a stupid question by Metal Hammer magazine. I mean, he's been accused of terrible things by people on social media. Would he like to comment? I'd be like, what are you even talking about? That's what I would say. Like, what do you mean? They definitely should have clarified a little more with that. But, okay, question number 3. Evan Rachel Wood responded to online gossip that her unnamed abuser was, in fact, not Mickey Rourke. So, they said, how did Marilyn Manson feel to read that, bearing in mind that some people online have claimed that the unnamed abuser was him? Did he reach out to Evan Rachel Wood and ask her to clear his name also? Okay. And the answer that they got to that question was, quote, "You then mentioned Mickey Rourke. It is my understanding that Evan Rachel Wood dated multiple people around the time she was dating Manson. Basic internet research will give you a host of other names that have not come up in any of our discussions," end quote. Basic internet research. Okay, well, I actually did some basic internet research, and what that did was tell me that at that time in her life, she dated only Marilyn Manson and her ex-boyfriend, Jamie Bell, when she was 18 to like 23. Now, after her breakup with Marilyn Manson, she rekindled her romance with Jamie Bell. They ended up getting married in 2012 and having a son. Now, they did split up in 2014, but ever since then, she has spoken very positively and very highly of Jamie Bell, and they remain close friends to this day. So I really don't think that Jamie Bell would be her abuser. But besides all of that, she had an interview with Bustle, and in that interview, she said, quote, "I repressed my trauma for many years to the point where I really barely even was able to discuss it with my husband at the time, Jamie Bell." So she actually said that she repressed her trauma so much she couldn't even talk about it with her husband. And her husband just happened to be the only other person that she dated after finding out with my basic internet research. So that definitely leaves just Manson. So what they're asking, did he reach out to her and ask her to clear his name too? Is what they're asking. Now, I don't know. That's kind of a weird question, but it could, if you think about it, it could be a trick question, because if he did reach out to her and ask her to clear his name, then that means that he probably is the abuser, because if he didn't ask her, "Hey, can you clear my name too?" then it's probably, might be him. I don't know. Okay, so question number 4 is, after a Twitter user asked Evan Rachel Wood why she has never named her abuser, she replied, "They threatened to kill me or have me killed." Back in 2009, Marilyn Manson appeared to make lighthearted, hyperbolic comments about fantasizing about smashing Evan Rachel Wood's skull with a sledgehammer. Does he regret making comments like that today? Now, the quote that they are talking about is from Marilyn Manson in 2009. He was doing an interview about his song, "I Want to Kill You Like They Do in the Movies." Now, Marilyn Manson says, quote, "I didn't want people to ask me every time I did an interview, 'Oh, is this record about your relationship with your ex-girlfriend?' But that damage is part of it, and the song 'I Want to Kill You Like They Do in the Movies' is about my fantasies. I have fantasies every day about smashing her skull in with a sledgehammer."
In some of these tapes, he can be heard threatening to kill me, threatening my friends, or threatening to kill members of my family.
So Marilyn Manson's team didn't quite respond to this particular question. They responded to the next question for both this and the next question. So I'll go ahead and read the next question. Question number 5 is, does he agree with Patricia Arquette's tweet that Marilyn Manson cutting himself 158 times when he called Evan Rachel Wood after a breakup is not, quote, "love heart emoji, it's abuse"? Now, what they're talking about here is Marilyn Manson described the meaning of his song "Into the Fire" and how it was about him hitting rock bottom in 2008 when he cut himself on his hands and on his face 158 times for each time that he called Evan Rachel Wood on Christmas Day after they broke up. So he said that he cut himself on his hands and face every time he called Evan Rachel Wood on Christmas Day. And he called her 158 times that day, I guess. That's a lot. Now, Marilyn Manson's PR team responded to this question, and they said, our next couple of points deal with comments Marilyn Manson made in Spin magazine in 2009. Your confusion around the timeline is extremely worrying, and then there's an editor's note in there saying there is no confusion around this timeline, end quote. But then Marilyn Manson's team says, the comments in Spin where Manson had fantasies of using a sledgehammer on Evan and cutting himself 158 times was obviously a theatrical rock star interviewing and promoting a new record, and not a factual account. Now, the fact that Evan and Manson got engaged 6 months after this interview would indicate that no one actually took this story literally. I look back, and it was a really stupid thing to do. This was intentional. This was a scarification, and this was like a tattoo. I wanted to show her the pain she put me through. It was like, I want you to physically see what you've done. It sounds made up, but it's completely true, and I don't give a shit if people believe it or not. I've got the scars to prove it. Okay, so right there he says he doesn't care if you don't believe him, he has the scars to prove it. So, I don't know. It sounds like he was definitely serious and it wasn't just a theatrical promotion. But I want you to remember this part of Evan Rachel Wood's testimony as well.
I mustered the courage to leave several times, but he would call my house incessantly and threaten to kill himself.
Okay, so in her testimony, she says that she tried to leave him several times, but he would call her house a bunch and threaten to kill himself. And then he's saying that he called her 158 times in one day. So that kind of sounds like what he said. That sounded like what he said out of his own mouth. So question number 6. What does it say of our culture that when he made those comments in 2009, it was seen as Manson being controversial and outrageous, but today it is questioned and considered abuse? Now, his team didn't necessarily respond to that in particular, so I will read question number 7. Another one of Marilyn Manson's former girlfriends, Esme Bianco, also testified in front of the California Senate Public Safety Committee about a past abusive relationship that she had. How does Manson feel about the fact that 2 of his exes have had such relationships? It's a good question. Now, I also have her testimony and, well, pieces of it, and I'm going to play it for you guys here soon as well. But I think it is a little weird that he has 2 of his girlfriends getting together and testifying, both of them, on behalf of the Phoenix Act.
Suspicious.
Now, another thing that I actually do want to point out as well is when 2 of his ex-girlfriends came out and testified about their experiences with domestic violence. After that, none other than Marilyn Manson's former assistant was supporting them. Now, she also put out a tweet saying that she has endured abuse as well, but she cannot speak about it at all without serious legal repercussions, kind of implying that she signed an NDA, which, that's a little weird to me. I mean, I know, like, before, I was a fan of Marilyn Manson. I like his music, and when I heard him talk on interviews and everything, I always thought he sounded very smart and very articulate and just like an all-around good guy. But like, I don't know, man. Like, it definitely sounds like he did these things. I mean, 2 of his girlfriends are testifying about what happened to them, and then his former assistant also tweets and supports them and says that she also went through abuse, but she can't speak of anything without serious legal repercussions. And Manson was her boss, not her boyfriend, so usually in a work environment is when you sign NDAs like that. So, I don't know. It's a little fishy, guys. It's a little fishy. Now, of course, when I'm saying this, I'm saying it as if Evan Rachel Wood did not name her abuser yet. But we're going to get into that also. So let's move on. Question number 8. Another one of Marilyn Manson's former partners, Rose McGowan, has been at the forefront of the MeToo movement, with at least 3 of his ex-partners claiming to have suffered abuse at the hands of men who intimidated them into silence. Does he stand in support of them? Now, his team did respond to this by saying, you go on to talk about Manson commenting on sexual harassment, MeToo, and specifically his experiences with his ex-partner Rose McGowan. These are all issues that Manson has publicly addressed and are available online. Please see Channel 4 interview from December 15th, 2017. Now, I went and watched this interview, and there's really not much. The only thing he says is this.
I just don't want to see this turn Hollywood into something that takes away from films being made, and that's not to disrespect the people that are saying these allegations. I just think that if you have something to say, you should say it to the police, not to the press, and handle it that way, first and foremost. And that's what I would do. You know, the things that happened to me growing up as a kid is nothing that I'm going to talk about or complain about. I mean, I am guilty as charged when it comes to writing a book and talking about my childhood, but I'm not trying to make it into a crazed thing where I can't turn on my phone every day without someone being accused of something. And maybe it's all men are bad, or all men can't do anything inappropriate. You know, it makes you feel like you can't even, like, say, like, I meet her and say, if I look at her the wrong way, I'm going to be accused of something. And I don't disagree with, you know, when you're speaking about my ex-fiance, I disagree with how she's handling it. I just disagree with the entire snowball effect that's happened with it, that it could really ruin a lot of things that are, it could ruin a lot of people's lives that don't need to be ruined.
So honestly, guys, to me, by his interview there, it doesn't really sound like he does stand in support of them. It sounds like he's not really a fan of the MeToo movement or what these ladies are doing at all. It also sounds like he's saying, well, yeah, speak your truth, but don't ruin careers, and he doesn't agree with cancel culture, and it also sounds like he's saying that he is afraid that people coming out with their stories is going to ruin the entertainment. That's pretty much what he's saying. So I guess that does answer their question. He does not stand in support of them. I'm guessing that's what I'm thinking that it says. But anyway, question number 9. It's possible to interpret lyrics on the song Perfume on his new album as being about victim culture. The song seems to suggest that some victims relish their victimhood and do it for fame. Is this how Marilyn Manson feels? And then they quoted a lyric from his new song. It is, quote, "You wear your damage on your sleeve, 'cause victim is chic. You're as famous as your pain," end quote. It definitely sounds like Marilyn Manson does not agree with, with the Me Too movement or anything like that. And it really does sound like he's pretty much saying that women use their whatever happened to them to get fame is what it sounds like in his song. If you guys haven't heard that song, I will link it down below. But the answer that they got for that question is, quote, "Manson has never shied away from public comment. Equally, he does not have to make this same comment twice." That's all. That's all they said. So, okay. Well, I guess Manson has spoken, everybody. He does not have to make this same comment twice. That sounds a little... okay, whatever. Question number 10. The song could even be considered threatening to someone who's claiming victimhood. A lyric from the song that they used for an example is, quote, "In your hair will be brains," end quote. What is the song Perfume about? That's what they want to know. And Manson's team responded with, "There will be no further comment on specific songs. Your journalist had the opportunity to ask Manson about his music. Only one of 2 interviews granted in the UK, and he chose not to. Trying to weave one section of one song from an artist with 30-plus year career to fit a narrative is both disingenuous and troublesome." Okay, so only one of 2 interviews granted in the UK and you ruin it? How dare you? That's really what it sounds like they're saying to me. Like, how could you? But okay. So Manson's team also went ahead and added a few more. I mean, they only had those 10 questions, but they did go ahead and offer a few more quotes here. They said, "You mentioned Manson's ex, Rose McGowan, in your questions. Rose is one of the bravest and most outspoken figureheads of the Me Too movement. Manson remains friends with Rose, and she talks very fondly of their 3 years together. There are multiple sources worldwide. I linked to Washington Post article, McGowan's memoir, Brave, as well. Okay, so when Rose heard that Manson's team was kind of using her a little bit as a scapegoat, she didn't seem to like that very well. She texted Manson and then she posted it on her Instagram. Now, here is the post on her Instagram, and the caption reads, "I'm so sorry you were hurt by anyone. Sent a message to Marilyn Manson." And then her text to him reads, "Hey, I don't know what happened with you and Evan, but tell your reps I am not to be used as a shield, not now, not ever. If Evan names you or anyone else, I will support her, regardless of my history with you. I hope it's not you, but I have no idea. Do not use the fact that you texted with me recently after many years as a way out. Do not use my book Brave, where I wrote about good times with you, as a defense. I will not allow anyone to use me." Whoa! So it definitely sounds like, she didn't have those experiences with Manson, but she will support Evan no matter what she says or who she says it is. But honestly, I thought about this a couple of times, and Rose is, like they said, one of the bravest and most outspoken figureheads of the MeToo movement, you know what I mean? And, she's one of the strongest and bravest, figures right now, and I really think that if Manson abused her, she definitely would have said something. She would not keep that quiet. So that makes me think, too, why would Manson abuse some women and not others? I mean, I don't know. Because usually when a man is a serial abuser like that, they abuse everyone. They can't help it, It's like they're just a predator. They're just disgusting. They can't help themselves. So I don't know. It really sounds like he definitely did not abuse her. But why would an abuser just not abuse a certain person? I don't know. It really made me think for a while, what? But I do have a theory on that, and I will let you guys know at the end of the video as well. Manson's team also said, they said some more. They said, quote, "You failed to mention Manson's ex-wife, Dita Von Teese, who remains good friends with Manson." Quoting from a Female First article published in 2018, Dita admits she has been lucky to avoid any abusive episodes in the entertainment industry in her career. So Manson's team also said, quote, "You failed to mention Manson's ex, Dita Von Teese, who remains good friends with Manson." Quoting from a Female First article published in 2018, Dita admits she has been lucky to avoid any abusive episodes in the entertainment industry in her career. Well, now that I think about it, it sounds like she's talking about in her career in the entertainment, because there's been a lot of controversy going around about Hollywood figureheads and people high up in Hollywood doing bad things to the actors and actresses and stuff like that. So I wonder if that's exactly what she was talking about and not in her marriage and her personal life. But anyway, so I went ahead and did some digging also, and I found a quote from Dita as well, where she said, "I've never been that girl out looking for a rich husband. I never wanted to have anyone tell me what I can and cannot do. My soon-to-be ex-husband, Marilyn Manson, asked me to quit my work so he could support me. I quickly realized he wanted to change me. The things people like about you, and in the beginning, end up being the things that they don't like." Now she goes on to say, "We were so terribly in love. I never took him for someone who could exploit our divorce for the sake of records. I don't think people realize he used our marriage bed in that music video to have sex with that girl," which was Evan Rachel Wood, actually. "And he wore his wedding ring. I just thought, wow, this is kind of obsessive. I guess I still matter." In an article in 2006 with Female First, Dita Von Teese says there are lots of things that I would not like in my next relationship, but I would like to be with someone who is maybe a little bit more even-tempered, or someone with good manners. Maybe not someone who is nice, that really isn't the right word, but someone who says please and thank you, is even-tempered, and doesn't break all the windows in the house. That would be cool. Marilyn Manson's rep then says there are also numerous articles over multiple years where Evan speaks very highly of her relationship with Marilyn Manson. One of her quotes is, quote, "I wouldn't trade any of our relationship," end quote. And she also said to a magazine, quote, "I appreciate everything that he taught me. I just don't think we were right for each other," end quote. Now that particular quote was in 2015. I just want to note it was in 2015, and there are no other quotes from her speaking highly or in any way of Marilyn Manson after that quote. Now she also said, I do just want to point out that Evan Rachel Wood has said that it took her almost 7 years to even process what happened to her. So 2015 would only be a few years after, so maybe, she didn't even process it yet. That's just something I want to point out. Now, Marilyn Manson's rep also says, "Finally you talk about death threats. Marilyn Manson knows all about those. He has had many. He has spent his career being blamed for everything from Columbine to teenage suicide. Unfortunately, we live in a time where people believe what they read on the internet and feel free to say what they want with no actual evidence. The effects can be catastrophic, and promoting non-fact-based information is wholly irresponsible. All we can try and do as the media and individuals is to use facts and truth and not hide behind gossip and conjecture to further our own agendas." Okay guys, so moving on from here, I want to go ahead and talk about some of the similarities between Evan Rachel Wood and Esme Bianco's testimonies that really left me scratching my head. Like, there's no way that those are just similarities. They're both his exes, and they're saying all this same stuff. So let's go ahead and start some of the footage. So both women described their abuser as having a certain charisma and charm.
Charisma and power, and I quickly surrendered to his charms. In the beginning, he treated me like a princess.
Initially, he was charming, intelligent, funny. He told me I was his soulmate.
Both women describe being lied to and being groomed before and in the beginning of the relationship.
It wasn't until much later that I realized everything he had told me was a lie and part of what is called the grooming process.
Before he succeeded in his seduction, my abuser carefully groomed me, manipulating and gaslighting me over a number of years of friendship. He knew that I was easy prey.
Both women described their abuser being extremely controlling, down to what they were allowed to wear and what they were allowed to even eat. They also described their abuser cutting off all of their relationships with friends and even family, which I know is actually very common of abusers to do. They want to isolate their victim completely so they have total control and the victim has no support and no way out.
Verbal abuse and name-calling was a daily occurrence.
There was a certain way he wanted me to look, otherwise I would endure name-calling and ridicule. He cut me off from my close friends and family one by one by exhibiting rage in some form or another when I was in contact with them.
By the time I was living with him, he controlled every aspect of my life. He had a dress code I was expected to abide by. He controlled what I ate, decided if my friendships were acceptable, and when I called my family, I did so hiding inside a closet.
Both women mentioned sleep deprivation.
He broke me down through means of starvation, sleep deprivation, and threats against my life.
He controlled when and if I slept, and I was often violently shaken awake should I go to sleep without permission.
Both women describe abuse during sex or abuse that was disguised as intimacy.
Sometimes he would not allow me to sleep until I participated in acts of fear, pain, torture, and humiliation, which I felt powerless to stop.
But the physical violence was most often disguised in acts of intimacy and was not consented to. In one instance, I was bitten until my body was covered in bruises. On another occasion, cut with a knife during sex.
Okay, so both that the abuser would wreck their home. Now I found this very interesting as well because in an interview with Dita Von Teese after her divorce with Manson, she mentioned that Manson was prone to outbursts of anger, and he would break all of the windows in their house. So I thought that that was pretty weird when they said that. So that's something that is like, you know.
He had bouts of extreme jealousy, which would often result in him wrecking our home, cornering me in a room, and threatening me.
He started smashing holes in the walls with an axe, and as I tried to calm him down, he began to chase after me with the weapon.
Now, both women described their abuse being recorded and their abuser threatening to post the recordings. Now, oddly, Marilyn Manson has posted pictures of both of these ladies on his website, and he also used to have a video as a video intro on his website where it seems like he actually punches Evan Rachel Wood in the face and has her tied up and bleeding.
He also threatened to leak parts of the footage or photographs he had taken as a way to keep me quiet.
He took photos of my naked, mutilated body and posted them online without my knowledge.
Okay guys, so right there is actually where I was going to end the video and say, okay, so here is all the information, here's the similarities, what do you guys think? But I actually have all of these updates now, so let's go ahead and get into that as well. And I'm going to do my eyeliner really quick. I am terrible at doing my eyeliner on camera, and I'm not very good at it actually at all. So I'm going to do my eyeliner real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so moving on from there, I want to talk about all of the updates that happened yesterday and today. So yesterday, February 1st, 2021, Evan Rachel Wood did decide to publicly name her abuser. Hold on. Ugh. Okay guys, so moving on from there, I want to talk about all of the updated information that happened yesterday and today. So yesterday, February 1st, 2021, Evan Rachel Wood did decide to publicly name her abuser. She did put it on her Instagram, and she named her abuser as Brian Warner, aka Marilyn Manson. Now, after Evan came out and said that Marilyn Manson was her abuser, 4 other women came out and named Marilyn Manson as their abuser as well. Now, after this happened, his record label, Loma Vista Recordings, they dropped him from the record label, and then he had a role on American Gods. He lost that role, and he had a horror anthology series episode for Creepshow, and that was pulled immediately as well. Now, that all happened yesterday, and then today at like 5 in the morning, the California State Senate, Susan Rubio, she insisted that the FBI do a full investigation of these allegations, and that she insisted that the FBI look into it and start a full investigation on Marilyn Manson and the allegations of abuse against him. So that's a lot. So let's go ahead and look at Evan Rachel Wood's Instagram post where she names her abuser. Okay, so Evan Rachel Wood wrote on her Instagram, "The name of my abuser is Brian Warner, also known to the world as Marilyn Manson. He started grooming me when I was a teenager and horrifically abused me for years. I was brainwashed and manipulated into submission. I am done living in fear of retaliation, slander, or blackmail. I am here to expose this dangerous man and call out the many industries that have enabled him before he ruins any more lives. I stand with the many victims who will no longer be silent." After Evan Rachel Wood came out publicly and named Marilyn Manson, the 4 other women who came out after her are an artist only known as Gabrielle, Ashley Walters, Sarah McNeely, and Ashley Lindsay Morgan. I do want to note that Marilyn Manson's other ex, Esme Bianco, who testified for the Phoenix Act, she has not publicly stated anything yet or named her abuser. So I want to go ahead and show you Ashley Lindsay Morgan's Instagram post where she publicly accuses Marilyn Manson as well. Now this is her post right here, and it says, "I was contacted by Marilyn Manson, Brian Warner, while modeling overseas in Bangkok, Thailand in 2009 and 2010. I genuinely didn't really know who he was, but I had heard of his musician's name in high school. We had a mutual photographer friend, and he said Brian wanted me for an upcoming project. I was certainly wary at first. When we met him, we talked about literature and film. He seemed intelligent, authentic, and caring. After a very long time of talking and texting, he flew me out to Los Angeles to be part of a film and photo series. He said he believed in me as an actress, and I had confided in him that I wanted to get out of modeling. It seemed like a perfect opportunity. At first it was. He was like many of the musicians I'd met, but with cocaine and absinthe. He made me feel safe, he told me he'd protect me, and I believed him. I went from the Roosevelt Hotel to living with him very quickly, and things turned dark very quickly as well. I was given rules and got in trouble for any behavior he did not approve of." So that is Ashley Lindsay Morgan and her post. Now, the only other post that I could find was Sarah McNeely. So let's go ahead and look at her post as well.
He, Brian Warner, aka Marilyn Manson, lured me in with love bombing, posing as the perfect boyfriend, claiming he was just misunderstood, charming, smart, funny, charismatic. As he was wooing me, I would come to find out he was torturing others. Before long, I was the one being tortured. I was emotionally abused, terrorized, and scared. I was locked in rooms when I was bad, sometimes forced to listen to him entertaining other women. Kept away from certain friends, or if I didn't, he would threaten to come after them. I was told stories of others who tried to tell their story and their pets ended up dead. I wasn't allowed to go near other artists working on the same set, as he told me that they had AIDS and were disgusting, and if I did so, he would be very upset, and I wouldn't want that. I was verbally berated for hours upon hours, blamed for everything under the sun in order to make me feel worthless. Any male friends in my life were not allowed any longer. He threatened to shank one of them after they posted something on my Facebook page. I was thrown up against the wall, and he threatened to bash my face in with the baseball bat he was holding, for trying to get him to pick out a pair of pants prior to a music video. I witnessed him staging problems or hiding missing objects in order to justify his violent outbursts. I witnessed him recording others unknowingly in order to have blackmail on most anyone who entered the meat locker, as I called his home. It was kept at a chilly 62 degrees always. I witnessed him terrorize and abuse others in my presence, slander his exes. I have been afraid to bring any spotlight upon myself as to avoid winding up in his crosshairs again. As a result of the way he treated me, I suffer from mental health issues and PTSD that have affected my personal and professional relationships, self-worth, and personal goals. I believe he gets off on ruining people's lives. I stand in support of all that have and all that will come forward. I want to see Brian held accountable for his evil. I was able to find Gabriella's statement, and her statement says, quote, "It has taken me 5 years to speak out and say that I was in a terrible relationship, I have been diagnosed with PTSD. I block out a lot of memories, but the feelings still remain and manifest in various ways. The reason why I am sharing this story is for my own personal healing, because I am done being silent. I don't believe it is fair for someone to not be held accountable for what they have done. I am not a victim, I am a survivor. End quote. Now, the last of the 4 ladies who came out with their stories yesterday is Ashley Walters. Ashley didn't come out with a statement or testimony like the other 3 ladies, but she did share that she has struggled with PTSD, depression, and so many mental health issues because of the pain that she has gone through with Marilyn Manson.
After all of this, Rose McGowan has came out on her Instagram as well and put a video up about what she thinks about all this. Let's take a look at that.
Profoundly sad today and disgusted, but I am mostly proud. Proud of Evan Rachel Wood and the others who've come forward against Marilyn Manson, my ex. When he was with me, he was not like that, but that has no bearing on whether he was like that with others before or after. It takes time to come forward. And again, I am proud of these women and anybody who stands against an abuser. They steal time. These are time eaters. They steal lives. They steal hopes, dreams, freedom, sexuality, love. And I'm also here to say to the Hollywood cult leaders that have employed him and sanctioned him, and Interscope Records and Sony, who was with him during the Evan period, you know you are accomplices. All the PR managers, agents, lawyers, the Hollywood cult must be stopped.
Wow, you guys. So, okay, now we know that he definitely did not abuse Rose McGowan in any way. So, when I was sitting there last night, I was thinking, like, it really got me thinking. Like, I thought if you were an abuser, then you were an abuser. You abuse all of your partners. You don't, like, pick and choose who you abuse and who you don't. So, it really got me thinking, like, why would he abuse a lot of his partners, but not Rose McGowan and not Dita Von Teese? Like, why not? So the only thing I could come up with is, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way. I don't want it to sound bad at all. I don't mean anything negative by it. I really don't. But the only thing I could come up with was Rose McGowan and Dita Von Teese were both very big in the industry. They were very big names at the time. Now, Evan Rachel Wood is also an amazing actress, but she was also 18 at the time, and I believe that she was just starting out, getting some pretty big roles finally at the time, so she wasn't like huge like Rose McGowan and Dita Von Teese, and she was also very, very young when she got with Manson. Wow, you guys. Okay, so we now know that Marilyn Manson never abused Rose McGowan in any way. And from what it sounds like so far, he also did not abuse Dita Von Teese either. So that really actually got me pretty confused. Like, I was like, I thought if you were an abuser, then you were an abuser. You abuse all of your partners. Why would an abuser pick and choose who he abuses and who he doesn't? Like, why would he abuse most of his partners but not all of them? So, like, that really got me thinking. And last night, the only thing I could come up with was this. Now, I don't want this to come out the wrong way at all. I don't want anybody to get upset with what I'm about to say. I don't mean anything negative by it whatsoever, I swear. But the only thing I could come up with was at the time when Marilyn Manson was with Rose McGowan and Dita Von Teese, they were both very big names in the industry, and they were very, like, well known, in the industry, and when he was with all the other women, they weren't that well known. And Evan Rachel Wood, she is an amazing actress. She is a wonderful person, but at the time she was very, very young as well. And I think at the time she just now started getting some very big roles at that time. So she also wasn't super duper well known at that time either. So the only thing I can think of really is maybe he only abused like the women that were young or were not that well known, as like kind of like he is a true predator, you know, like he picks and chooses who he abuses and who he doesn't, almost like a coward. Like, it really makes me think that he's a coward. Like, he can't pick on somebody of his own stature and status, you know? I don't know. And that really makes me think that he is a true predator, you guys. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I don't mean anything bad by that. I hope you guys, no one gets upset, like, but what do you guys think? Almost like pick on somebody your own size, dude, you know? Now, after Evan Rachel Wood and the other 4 women came forward and Rose McGowan gave her 2 cents, Marilyn Manson did break his silence and take to his Instagram, and he did deny all allegations. Now, this is what he said. Obviously, my art and my life have long been magnets for controversy, but these recent claims about me are horrible distortions of reality. My intimate relationships have always been entirely consensual with like-minded partners, regardless of how and why others are now choosing to misrepresent the past. Now that is the truth. That is what Marilyn Manson said yesterday when he decided to break his silence and come out about the allegations against him. Okay guys, so after all of this happened, after all of the women came forward, after Rose's response, the California State Senate decided to get involved. Now, she sent a letter to Evan Rachel Wood, and I don't know if Evan posted it on her Instagram or if the State Senate Susan Rubio, she posted it on Evan's Instagram. I'm not sure, but it is on there. Now, this California State Senate has got involved, and she is now insisting that the FBI do an investigation and look into these allegations. So let's take a look at this, her letter. Here is her letter, and it says, as a domestic violence survivor who now advocates for victims in my role of California state legislator, I share a common trauma of emotional, psychological, and physical control at the hands of an abuser. Victims are almost always isolated from loved ones, making it that much more difficult to escape or to come forward. They are usually not believed or threatened to keep quiet. One of those reasons I fought for victims in my state to have more time to seek justice and to be allowed to use evidence of psychological and abusive behavior, commonly referred to as coercive control, was because they needed additional protections to stop the abuse. Since some of the alleged cases against Mr. Warner are from California, I am especially alarmed. Individuals who engage in this kind of abuse are often serial offenders. If these allegations are true and no investigation is undertaken, we will be failing the victims and allowing a possible perpetrator to continue abusing unsuspecting victims. That must not be allowed to happen. Evan had previously spoken about being abused by a former partner, but it was only this week that the Westworld star publicly accused the goth rocker of being the perpetrator. She wrote on Instagram, quote, "The name of my abuser is Brian Warner. also known to the world as Marilyn Manson. He started grooming me when I was a teenager and horrifically abused me for years. I was brainwashed and manipulated into submission. I am done living in fear of retaliation, slander, or blackmail. I am here to expose this dangerous man and call out the many industries that have enabled him before he ruins any more lives. I stand with the many victims who will no longer be silent. In addition, an artist known only as Gabriella, Ashley Walters, Sarah McNeely, and Ashley Lindsay Morgan have all made claims of abuse against the Beautiful People singer. Manson has denied the allegations, branding them, quote, horrible distortions of reality, and accused the women of trying to, quote, distort the past. However, following the claims, he has been dropped from his record label. He lost his role in the American Gods show and has had his episode of horror anthology series Creepshow pulled. So other than that, it's not in this letter, but the State Senate of California has insisted that the FBI look into these allegations and an investigation begins immediately on these allegations of abuse.
When I was editing this video today, a few more people came out against Marilyn Manson, so I wanted to include their statements before I ended the video. The first statement is from Miss Chloe Black, and she says, quote, "I knew this day would come. I've been waiting for it for 10 years. The women who spoke out yesterday are so incredibly brave, and I support them with every inch of my heart. Everything they said is true. It happened to me, and I witnessed it happening to some of them with my own eyes. He even bragged to me about the violent and abusive things he did to some of these women. I need you to know that it is all true and then some. 10 years is a long time to carry such an awful secret. Why did I keep silent all this time? How could I not speak out earlier after what he did to me and what I saw him do to other women?" End quote. The final statement I'm going to include in this video is from Love is Bailey. Now this is a different type of statement. This person was never romantically involved with Marilyn Manson. They are a stylist and they were working with Marilyn Manson on some sort of project when he actually pulled a gun out on this person. Now this person did make their own video on Instagram. It is a 6-minute video, so I am going to just include a few parts of this person's testimony, but I will link the full video in the description box down below.
Howdy y'all, my name is Love Bailey, and I just want to thank you for everyone that's reached out to me and offered their condolences during this dark time. Because of you, I am brave to stand in my truth and to tell my story. And because of all the death threats I've been getting, the photographers reaching out threatening me, I feel it's a pressing matter that I speak directly to the camera and tell my testimony of what really happened the night I met Marilyn Manson. I was 20 years old. I was a young, naive stylist, just trying to make a name for myself. And here I am in the presence of what I thought were my heroes, Marilyn Manson. I looked up to his music until that instance. So I'm just doing my job. I get called in to go into Marilyn's boudoir. And as I'm walking into his boudoir, to the left side, there was a glass cage where it looked like that he held his victims, where he held women against their will. There was a lock on it. I crawl over the sex-stained sheets that and Marilyn had just finished up whatever they were doing, and I looked over to and she was blackout wasted. And I don't know if this was from pills. She was not coherent at all. She was stumbling over. She hurt her knee on the bedside table, and Marilyn laughed at her and just let her crawl on the floor. And so I ran over to help. And as I'm, holding and trying to get her balance with her, Marilyn pulls a gun to my head, a big Glock, a metal Glock, not a toy gun. This was a real gun. And he pulls a Glock straight to my forehead and says, "I don't like faggots," ha, as he laughs in this really dark, aggressive tone. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a humorous behavior or something to take lightly. And I remember being stunned in that moment. I felt powerless. And I finally am brave enough to come out about this after all these years because of Evan's testimony. But for so many years, I've been silenced into not saying anything, because of the industry, because of the fashion industry, because of these people, these photographers that will blacklist you for mentioning their name. And for so long, I've been silent, but now I think it's time. I think it's time I come clean about my story and my experience. And you know what? If my voice can help save a life, in doing so, if my voice can help other victims come forward and stand in their truth, so be it. So be it. I don't give a fuck about the fashion industry. I don't give a fuck about styling and, upholding these false beliefs and these false powers at B. I don't care anymore, okay? I don't want to work with these people anyways. I know that in my power, in my truth, I have enough to offer the world, and I'm a magical blessing to the world, and my existence, my very presence is a blessing to this earth. So these men hold no power over me anymore. And I'm sorry that it took so long to come out about this story, but I'm happy to share my truth. And thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to hear my testimony. And Godspeed those victims. I stand with you. My heart goes out to you. I love you all. Thank you.
Okay, you guys, so what do you guys think about this whole issue? I mean, I know a lot has happened with this issue in the past 2 days. Like, I've been doing research on this issue for like over a month, and like the past 2 days, it is just completely blown up. So much has happened in just 2 days, and I don't know, you guys, like, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Marilyn Manson is innocent, or do you think he's guilty? Do you believe the women, or do you believe him? What do you guys think is going on? And if you believe he's guilty, why do you think that he abused some of his partners and not all of them? Like, why would someone do that? I'm really curious about that. But I would love to hear all of your guys' opinions about this. I love hearing everything you guys think about everything we talk about on this channel. I really respect everything you guys have to say, and I can't wait to hear everybody else's opinions on this. Alright guys, this is the finished makeup look. What do you guys think? I don't know. It's kind of like light colors, pastel colors. I don't know. Maybe I can't wait till spring. I don't know. I mean, I do hate the winter, but whatever. Alright guys, so if you are not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. You know you want to. I would love to have you guys on this channel with me, and I put up new content at least twice a week. And if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It really, really does help. And please leave a comment below if you have any thoughts on this subject. And yeah guys, until next time, in a world where you can be anything, please be kind. Bye, guys.